when a new revert brother who I met at one of the masajid, Caucasian brother, he was telling me that his dad asked him, for success, you have a good relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and when you pass away, if you say the Shahada, 60 years or 30 years and all of this, what does it mean in the hereafter, brothers? So when you look at somebody who's maybe amazed, he's achieved everything in his life. When he's put down in the grave, and he's among us subhanahu wa ta'ala, rejected the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and in this ayah that we mentioned, when they're amazed with their numbers and they lost their trust, and they trusted only in their hands, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed them that tawfiq is going to come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is all the reminder part before we go into the story, that always, whatever we're doing, even if people have better, let's just say, technology, I strive for this, but for some reason, and every till that we have in this, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He raises nations, and then later on He raises another nation. He gives victory to one nation, He gives victory to another nation. Every 100 years. 100 years ago was the British Empire. Today it's America. I don't know what's going to be in the next 100 years. So every now and then, you will have a nation dominate, and you will have people go up and down. But the question as Muslims, every single one of us, we have to ask is, how is our relationship with Allah? Meaning our last breath, are we passing away with the kalima of La ilaha illallah? This has to be our foundation. So always put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the battle of Hunain itself, now Hunain itself, the two after the fall of Mecca, Ta'if is a city that is known to be lusty, even till today.
किसी का माइक वो
And this was
another
deity.
It just started coming. It was coming. You did something, and it was coming.
They were into polytheism. Because of this reason, once Mecca fell,
Yes,
they
that's it.
decided to make a move and capture this place called Al-Qas.
क्लोज करके इसको
A
क्लोज करके फिर
lot of army, a lot of people
पूरा
together,
YouTube को
and they
क्लोज करता
captured
हूँ.
this place, and obviously the Prophet had heard of what was happening. One of the things, the young man, this Malik now, and Nusri, what he does is not only does he gather an army, but he also brings his wife, i.e. wife, is the family of every single soldier, and he brings their sheep, their cattle, and everything that they possess with them. Now this may not be the smartest move for anybody who's going to battle to bring, and his wisdom was that if they see that their family is behind them, they shall fight till the end. And one of the older gentlemen, this is the difference between an older person's thought process and a younger person's thought process. Another older person, amongst them, he tells him, because of his old age, he also turned blind, and he asks him himself, the leader amongst his people. There was a bunch of tribes, one was the Hawazin, one was the Fahim was the tribe from Ta'if itself. He asked them, why do I hear the sound of children? Why do I hear the sound of women? Why do I hear the sound of all this cattle with this? And he said, no, so that our people don't run away from the battle. Now this obviously wants them against this, that if you were to lose the battle, at least your children are safe back home. And if you were to win, well, alhamdulillah, you're going back home, you're going back home to your wife. But if you bring your entire family, and back in the days, if you watch your family, you're going into slavery. There was no jail. They couldn't accommodate 10,000 people in jail. You were going into slavery. i.e., if your family went in and you lost the battle and you ran away as a father or whatever, as a soldier, if you left and you abandoned your family, your entire family was going to be going into slavery unless until you purchased them. That's what happened towards the end. Well, inshallah, I don't know if you will understand. When this old man warns them, he makes a threat saying that if you do not obey me, I shall kill myself, and then you won't have a leader anymore. And obviously, this is not a wise thing for a young man. So for all the young folks, inshallah ta'ala, learn from the wisdom of the older folks. They have lived longer. Sometimes knowledge alone is not one thing. Knowledge with practicality and age also gives you more and more wisdom. It lets you think through the whole situation. So inshallah ta'ala, there is a good balance between using the young and taking the wisdom of the old. Having mentioned this, they do camp in this place called Hunain. This is a valley that is until today. One of the things that they do is, since the Prophet's army also was large, they take a couple of days to reach this place of Hunain. And they set the army in such a way that they lure them to enter the valley. First they set themselves in such a way that they start moving away, so the Muslim army, they think they're winning, and they go into this narrow valley. And what happens is, when they start fighting, they walk them towards the valley, and then the arrows came running down. And this is what we started with in the beginning of the ayah. When the arrows actually came down upon the Muslimin, all of the Sahaba, and at this point in time, because of their numbers, they were so proud of it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did give victory to these people in the beginning. And that's when they all ran skelter, and they went all over the places. And this is the only battle where all of the four Khulafa, Umar, Abu Bakr, Ali, Uthman, all of them were injured. And one of the things that Abu Sufyan, he was the one who actually stayed with the Prophet. When they all ran away, and they were all going all over the place, one of the statements that the Prophet, remember, the Arab society was very tribalistic in terms of all the new Muslims. They were still in tribalism. So one of the things that he calls his people, he says, Halumbu ilayya. He makes a particular statement, and this is something, inshallah, maybe we can. All the mu'mineen will be Muslims for long. They understand the value of Prophet. And that I am a prophet, and this is not
that's
the
mic, I think.
I am the son. Abd al-Muttalib. I am the son of Abd al-Muttalib. Technically, his grandson, but is one of the ways that they would address themselves. So his father is Abdullah. His grandfather is Abd al-Muttalib. Now, for many of us, we may not truly understand how Arabs are very tribalistic. So when you make a statement that I am the grandson of Abd al-Muttalib, for them, this is for the new Muslims.
This is the mic.
This has more value than you claiming to be a prophet, especially if they are new
No,
to
this
Islam.
I don't think
And they're
it might be connected to this,
with the tribalism,
but I don't know.
and they
I thought it's
still
going to be
love
connected to the
tribes.
computer.
And sometimes
Wait,
you find this in a lot of Muslim countries also. Asaliya, I mean, not today it's nationalism. People love to say, oh, he's from Pakistan, or he's from Syria, he's from my country, he's from my region. Maybe the tribalism has gone away, but they're very, very affiliated. They like to associate themselves. You see,
He
this
said
is
wireless, so
nothing
basically
wrong, as
Bluetooth.
long as you're calling yourself, if you tell, as we as Americans just stand up for justice, well, alhamdulillah, this is not a problem. But any time you say,
Oh my God,
we as
Windows 11,
people,
bro.
we are better than the
I know
others,
he's
or we as Americans, we are the best and all the other nations are worth nothing,
Yeah, I was
this is
used to
where
this like
you're going into arrogance.
Yeah.
Anytime you're calling towards khayr, and you're going to use your people towards khayr, well, alhamdulillah, is not a problem. Anytime you use nationalism to put people down, and one of the things they define arrogance is, ضبط الناس بطل الحق. One of the things you do is, you look down on the people, i.e. if you think someone is less than you, and you reject the truth. And this is a sort of arrogance. So if you're going to use nationalism to put down people and to reject the truth, this is not something that Islam wants. And if you're going to fight people against truth, again, this is not something Islam wants. But what he was doing was he was calling his own people to stay steadfast. Some of them, they understood the call of tribalism better than the Nabi because they were newly, they just accepted Islam recently during the Fath Makkah. And some of the other Sahaba, as soon as they heard it, and then the Abbas raised his voice, they all responded and they gathered. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, فَأَنزَلَ اللَّهُ سَكِينَةً when he sends tranquility upon the mu'mineen, upon the Prophet ﷺ, he does give them victory.
I can hear from this phone.
Wait, what happens is these people do, they go into different places, small skirmishes happen. Some people they actually win over it. But when it comes to Ta'if, they were actually completely fortified. And what happened is they left behind their ghanima, their women, their children. All of the stocks that they had, flocks and the sheep and the camels, all of that was left behind. So now, when the Prophet so there's two battles technically if you think of it. When the battle of Hunain happens, when they all run away, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does give them victory eventually, people retreat. When they go back to Ta'if, there is a siege that happens in Ta'if, but Ta'if is so well fortified that they're not able to penetrate through. In fact, many of the Sahaba, they pass away since they were not able to, the caterpillar also was used, but they couldn't pass through since it was well fortified that they could never let go.
There's definitely something
and the Prophet eventually does retreat. Obviously, this was a battle that was won, but they couldn't pierce through when it comes to Ta'if. So the people of Ta'if itself, with the Hawazin, they're not from Ta'if, they're from the surrounding areas. Now, but their children was actually captured. And the Prophet ﷺ, he was waiting for them for a long time. So I know many of you might be shocked. You might say, I just spoke about slavery. Now, Islam itself was not an institute. We were not something that enslaved people, i.e. this is not our goal. But this was one of the things, if it happened like this, one of the ways somebody would go into slavery is at that point of time, is at the time of war, if you get captured, you would go into slavery. Islam is something that always encourages freeing of slaves. When it comes to if you've done sins or you want to donate, you can also buy yourself away from slavery. And it was not based off of race. Anybody could have gone into slavery. Somebody who was white, somebody who was European, that Namrud's past the Egyptian brother, inshallah, are the Syrians. This is a slave dynasty. The people eventually who used to be slaves become the rulers of Egypt and Syria and all these people. So there were many ways for any person to get out of slavery. But at this point in time itself, they knew the Prophet was waiting, they never came back, and eventually the Prophet does divide the ghanima, i.e. the spoils of war, between the people. Either it be the camels, either it be the children, or be the women, so they all go into different tribes. And eventually there are things, and they decide to accept Islam. Now, someone might say that, or maybe they're doing it just for, so that they can get their things. Remember one thing, when it comes to if somebody, Iman, if anybody purely, this is also a form of way to drive in full reality for somebody to enter Islam. If Islam is true, inshallah it will enter his heart, even though in the beginning, he may do it out of some other conviction. Even Abu Sufyan himself, in the beginning, when he accepts Islam, he was a little 50-50. In the early sections of the Sirah, when the Fatah Makkah happens, he wasn't 100% sure. And he was still like, when they were making statements, a slave man is actually giving the adhan on top of the Kaaba, Abu Sufyan was not sure. If I say something, the agent might say something to the Prophet. He wasn't even sure. So in the beginning, people may go in steps, and sometimes you may have to give them gifts. So at this point in time, when the ghanima was divided, so whenever the people leave, right, they run away, now the Caliph at that point in time, he can decide to distribute the wealth based off of like how he wishes. What he does to the newly became Muslim, he gives them a lot. He can't get so much. Many of the Sahaba who newly became Muslim, and this was a form of bribery, and then they realized this is somebody, no person can be so generous. If you're getting 10 camels, at that point in time, this was a lot of wealth for the companions. Imagine if you're living in Mecca, one camel would be considered a lot of gold. Giving 10 camels to Abu Sufyan, and they realized how generous the Prophet was. This was means of softening the heart. Now another thing also when it comes to zakat, many of you give zakat. Now this is not something that is followed nowadays. Two things, one category you can give zakat to is, if somebody has a soft heart towards Islam, this person, i.e. non-Muslim, you can give him zakat, and the other one is when somebody is an enemy and you want to reduce the dollar, the harm from him, this is a category for Islam, or at least reducing the harm from him. So inshallah ta'ala, if you know people, and through reality, the missionaries also do this. Like they give you maybe food stamps from wherever they can. This is the true reality. Whenever they go to even a Muslim country, they try this, but this is what happens. So if you're the non-Muslims, you are actually going to soften your heart. If not Muslim, at least you will reduce the enmity that he may have towards Islam. The same thing when it comes to Salah. So don't ever think that this person will never be Muslim. Hidayah is going to be from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our job is at least reduce the enmity, or give him the message, or at least, you may do something that you're like, okay, I know Muslims, no, I don't think so, they're this. So you would have done some form of da'wah in an indirect way or direct way. So this is going to be one of the goals. So when they requested for this, the Prophet himself said, after that, get up and make an announcement that they have accepted Islam, and they're asking as Muslims to give back to their family, because the wealth, once it's distributed, they will not bring together. And the Prophet himself had asked them, what do you want? Do you want your wealth, or do you want your children? And obviously they chose their children. So after Salat al-Dhuhr, the man gets up from Tawazin and he says, we intercede using the intercession of the Prophet. Obviously the Prophet was alive, and he asked for our children and our women back. The Prophet himself gets up and he says, as of for me and my tribe, Abdul Muttalib, we give it back. And then the Muhajirin and the Ansar, the ones who migrated, and the ones who were from Medina itself, because they were the older Muslims, they gave it. And newly, the ones who newly got it, they all said no. We will not give them to you unless you buy it from us. So one of the ways somebody can be out of slavery also is, you buy them out of slavery. And the Prophet took it upon himself that the next time we have a battle, that he himself will pay it, and he will pay all of them. So without any doubt, they lost their wealth, but at the same time, they did get all of their children back. But since the wealth was distributed, they couldn't get their wealth, but their children itself and their women, all of that came back. There was a tribe, the Prophet's wife, Juwayriya. They had a battle with them previously, but before the booty was divided, they came back and they accepted Islam, and they were given back their wealth and their families. So, but because it was distributed, they didn't actually get their wealth itself. So, in short, I know they told me 9:15, so I just squeeze a lot of information in a small amount of time. Inshallah, one of the things, we have to, I know there's a lot happening with Palestine. Many people have always, a young boy, especially with young folks, especially if they're 10, they always try to say, why are we behind? Why are these people attacking us? Why are they killing the Muslims? That's why I mentioned these two things, is that remember, if it's just technology, you may still not get victory. And if it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may give somebody technology, but that does not mean that this is success in the hereafter also. So you have to keep this in your mind, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may give something to somebody, and in fact, in true reality, he's going further away from the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And whatever actions we do, when you're going and studying, when you're going and working, every single thing that we do, we have to do it for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, seeking tawfiq and all of those things. And nothing that we do, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you tawfiq, always say alhamdulillah. This is something that we want to, embed in us and in every single one of our kids. And inshallah ta'ala, I know this is a very, very difficult time for us. Every time we open the news, there's always something negative. Do not ever, brothers, let me tell you something. Even when it comes to the betrayal of the Muslims, if you read the last 100 years, the Muslims themselves have betrayed Muslims. As an enemy of Islam, their job is to fight you. This is the true reality. But if you were to look at the Muslim empires, everybody wanted to get or become the ruler. Either be the Arshad or Sheikh. And then everybody wanted to throw another one and come into power. This is just the reality of the Muslims. So unless and until, we remove Islam from this dunya and we unite upon Islam, Asabiyya is used in a good way, i.e. sometimes the Ansar would be grouped together and they would fight against the enemy. The Muhajirin, they would group together and they would fight against the enemy. So if you, as a people, you unite together and you fight against the enemy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is good. But at the same time, if we unite to fight against one another, then sometimes this is also something that we have to rectify. Inshallah ta'ala, I think this one is hopefully one more for inshallah. So I have to summarize everything inshallah ta'ala before I end this. Remember, numbers.
I'm keep telling them.